And so there's that scientific principle that mass is neither created nor destroyed, it's just transferred. So you wouldn't say that applies to power as well?
No, I am saying, all I'm saying is, again, I would never deny that power continues to exist, that there are some very important players. You know, Vladimir Putin is a very important, powerful player. But Vladimir Putin today has more constraints than Vladimir Putin himself just 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And so power is there, but power is easier to get, harder to use, and far easier to lose.
And what's driving this decline?
The normal conversation, the common wisdom about this is that the main driver behind the erosion of power, or how more fleeting it has become, is the internet and social media. Or how more fleeting it has become is the internet and social media and Twitter, Facebook, and all that. And we have seen that in the Arab Spring, presumably, and in other aspects. And I, of course, don't deny that. That's very important. The internet is a very powerful transformational tool that is altering the way power is acquired and used and deployed. But there are other things going on. The internet very often is just a tool that new realities have made more important. I'm thinking, for example, of the increase in the size of the middle class around the world. There is a very important restructuring of social structures, of socioeconomic distribution of income around the world, both negative and positive. In rich countries, the middle class is embattled and shrinking. In poor countries, is expanding very rapidly. And so all of that is one of the factors that is driving the shifts on power. And then I talk in the book about 3 important revolutions that are driving it.
Do you want to talk a bit more about those? You have the mentality revolution, mobility, and more. The more revolution is that we just have more of everything. There is more guns and more medicines, more computers and more tools of every kind. There is more income per capita. There is more wealth. There is more trade. There is more containers. There is more everything. More people, importantly. So more countries and more political parties and more ideas. And there is more of everything. If you have more of everything and you try to retain power, well, it's more complicated. It's much easier to wield power and keep control over when there is not so much of everything than when there is this explosion of everything. So that's the first thing. The second revolution, the second revolution is the mobility revolution, and that's well known. And that has to do with internet, cell phones, social media, but it's also migration, and it's also trade, and it's the constant movement of ideas, people, money, goods, services. And that mobility then combines with the more. So not only you have more, but you have that more moves far more, and therefore makes it harder to control. And thirdly, the one you mentioned first, is the mentality revolution. Is that all of the strengths, the more affluence in general, the rise of the middle classes, more information, changes in the way people think, the way in which authority is treated, the way in which people relate to the elders, to traditions, to customs, has changed. And so the first revolution, the more revolution, overwhelms the barriers that shielded the powerful. It's just too much, and so more overwhelms. The mobility revolution circumvents the barriers that shielded the powerful from rivals, and the mentality undermines them. So those are 3 forces, 3 categories, 3 baskets of a series of factors in each one of them that either overwhelms, circumvents, or undermines the barriers that allow the powerful to stay in power. So let's maybe take the Arab Spring